Hi everyone, I'm Sherry Maddox.
Hey, Sherry.
And I'm also the AD for the Central Atlantic region, and I've been to help facilitate the collaboration reimagined an Eastern Zone. Let's open with a moment of silence followed by the reversion of Serenity Prayer. Serenity Prayer.
God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
I'd like to introduce our two presenters, and then we will have Q&A afterwards. I'll share a little bit about my experience over the last year or so with working amongst the three zones. And first, we have Craig R., and he is currently the Fellowship Development Chairperson for the Northeast Zonal Forum.
Thank you, Sherry.
And Dennis will come behind him, and Dennis is the chair for the Northeast Zonal Forum. But he also currently lives in the Southeastern Zonal Forum.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. I'm an ag named Craig.
Hey, Craig.
So we want to welcome everybody in the room to this particular workshop and topic, and welcome everybody online as well. This workshop today is about imagination and what the possibilities could be. And we're not starting out with a predetermined outcome. We are bringing an idea to all of you and to see what kind of discussions and input and comments and concerns and questions that we might get. Over the past couple of years, there have been some informal discussions about combining the three zones in the eastern part of the United States: Northeast Zone, Autonomous Zone, and Southeast Zone. And each one of them have had some informal discussions at each of their zonal meetings. So there's a general sense, and when I say that general sense, I'm not going to say everyone shares that sense, but in part of those discussions, I know the people I've had discussions with about it, there's just some ideas that maybe it is something that we could do to better serve our members and to collaborate even more effectively and efficiently. We've been collaborating now, as you've seen during the course of this event, examples of collaboration, and you're actually seeing some today as well. And so as part of continuous improvement and how we can better reach our vision, this is an idea that we want to just throw out to the participants today and to talk about, because it has been discussed in in all three zones. So today we want to show you a little bit about what our service looks like today with all three zones. Also a little bit about what we've accomplished together over the past 2 or 3 years, and then just open up some ideas about where we could go, some possibilities, and just imagine what that would look like and what some of the benefits or value that would be to our members and areas and service bodies throughout. So this is our current state. This is all 8 zones in the United States. And you might see where you live in that and see where your zone is represented. But as it relates to Autonomous Zone, Northeast Zone, and Southeast Zone, this is what it looks like. Number of meetings in the areas and regions. The items coming starting with consensus-based decision-making represents what each of those zones do. In other words, each one of the zones currently has some form of consensus-based decision-making. One zone participates in strategic planning. They've incorporated and established strategic planning in their zone. All 3 zones have facilitators. Only 2 have alternate facilitators. There's a web servant at a couple of those zones, secretary, treasurer, and the numbers, as I said, I'm not going to go through all, but the numbers on the outside in parentheses represent what's currently in place at 1, 2, or all 3 of the zones. This is what it could look like. This is what it could be. One of the things I like to call out is that if you notice, the number of areas and regions don't change. There's nothing being discussed or even put on the table about any kind of change within our areas and regions that we're currently serving. But going further down, you do see, and this is one of those benefits that we want to talk about, is collaboration and more leveraging our resources and maximizing our resources throughout all 3 zones. All 3 of our zones, no matter where someone lives or no matter what perspective they have, we have great examples of trusted service and leadership throughout all 3 of our zones. There's sometimes effective collaboration and sometimes there's not. And so what we believe, and Dennis is going to talk a little bit more about it, but I want to point out, this is an example of what it could look like, where you see the numbers go away, which means that this is, thank you, this is part of leveraging the resources that we'll talk a little bit more in the next couple of slides. But this is what it could look like. And this is the other zones again, and then you have a zone called Eastern States. And that's just a name. It represents who we are geographically. But the philosophical and the ideal and the concept behind that is leveraging our resources together. So I think that's a great segue into my buddy, Dennis.
All right, still Natick, still named Dennis. So this is all the stuff that we, as in 3 individual zones, have accomplished individually, collaboratively. We have strategic planning happening. We have to establish goals, create ways to achieve them, delegate resources, task teams, and in some cases, even without having a strategic planning process, you have work groups created, task teams formed. And there's some examples of some of the work groups: service volunteer, service request portal, training, mentoring, training videos, professional presentations, helping regions, like my home region is one that benefited from assistance from the zone PR. Given permission to do a in-person professional presentation at a convention with 0 resources, 0 contacts, 1 person on PR. We pulled off the most successful public presentation we've done in Northern region ever. So that's one example. Virtual professional conferences, assisting 5 regions, a state, collaborating between 5 regions in a state to write a letter to the New York State government to try to get New York State MA designated as an essential service to assist our HNI challenges. It hasn't happened yet, but it's a work in progress. But that level of collaboration internally is something that's happened within its own. Training, video, PR, communications, collaboration, CBDM, mentorship, fellowship development, public relations, like all these things we have done in the zones currently. But just imagine doing this together. And when you think about it, if someone asks, well, why can't you just now as you currently this? We can, but it takes longer, it takes more resources, and it's less available, less accessible, less visible. Like I used my example earlier of someone needing help within our service body should have no more trouble than an addict needing help from NA in finding that help. If you had 5 phone numbers for your local and they all went to different places, eventually someone would be able to get routed where they needed to get routed, but it would take time. There would be challenges in the way of that communication. Right now, the 3 zones on the eastern states do collaborate in different ways. And as Craig mentioned, there's ineffective collaboration where we kind of start with some ideas, some kind of fall off, someone get traction moving forward. We have a video collaboration work group that is actively directly supported by NECF Fellowship Development and Southeast Zonal Forum PR. But it's open to anyone to attend. But it can be a complicated and time-consuming process for collaboration at the moment. And you have less visibility for all these resources. Like someone in Western New York region might not be aware that Southeast Zone Forum has an additional needs task force and might not feel like they have access to those resources. You bring all these resources together, suddenly you have a one-stop shop for, I need help with additional needs. I need help with rural family services. Our PR in the rural community it's challenged. I need help with HNI. All I have to know is I need help, and I go here, and this service body connects what's needed. Between the three zones, you have public relations, HNI, fellowship development, additional needs, a couple different varieties of technical services, whether it be MLT directly or web servants. We're talking about communication task teams in the Northeast. All these different things can be a one-stop shop for our members to make our areas and regions more effective in their services. Not tell them how to be of service, but be a resource in helping them help amplify their effectiveness. Help bring all these resources to bear in one spot. Instead of having then the leadership, like currently in collaboration, some of us, we see each other multiple times a week on Zoom. Because like I've been in on SEZF, AZF, NEZF meetings, so is Craig, so Sharon, like I see a lot of people regularly from different zones. Me personally, I have to attend multiple meetings on the same topic across multiple zones to collaborate. It'd be nice to be able to go to one spot and be able to talk about the one topic and be able to carry the scope of work across something like Eastern states. And some of the challenges that you might think is geographic, like travel across something that size. Or one example I think I heard someone talk about was how would someone in Massachusetts be able to help someone in Mississippi? Well, you know what? In the Northeast, Maine is extremely rural. My home area is very rural. We have 30 groups across, I take that. Now we have about 15 groups across 8 counties, touching both Lake Ontario and Pennsylvania. We're a bit rural. Maine, even more rural than that. We understand rural challenges. It wouldn't necessarily mean that if someone in Mississippi with a rural challenge would be connected to someone in New York City, but hey, maybe someone in New York City has that resource for that particular task, and we can bring that to bear very simply, very easily, very effectively, very efficiently by having that one spot. And then also bringing all this together opens up more collaborative possibilities for what an Eastern States zone could be in collaborating with other zones. With collaborating, being a part of, if we do a United States service collaboration of some kind, if that officially moves forward, it opens up new possibilities for how all these things work together in service to our message. It's like we talk about lost dreams awaken, new possibilities rise. That applies in service efforts too. And then I'll use the analogy again. I'll repeat myself that we go to great lengths, it's easy for an addict to find us and to not have to know that they're in a spiritually fit area, or they almost have an area of Narcotics Anonymous, that they just need help. Why wouldn't we do that for our service bodies and the resources so that they can carry the message to the addict to find that help? And then a beautiful thing, one of the possibilities that I love hearing about is billboards. Wouldn't it be nice, like you have the I-95 corridor across the 3 zones that touches New York City, Washington, DC, Richmond, goes down to Florida. I don't remember which ones in Florida it touches. So Jeff, Miami, Miami.
Goes right up straight to the freeway.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
the east coast.
Exactly.
So just imagine a billboard with one PSA on that will connect members. And see, that kind of public relations is a service we can provide to our local fellowship. So we can give them that PSA, we can give them that collaboration, we can give them the ability for that one thing to connect to the local services, to where you call this phone number at a zonal level, like those that are experienced with the app, for example, know that you call that, they connect locally. Not duplicating the services, making services more effective, making services more efficient, so that our message gets better accomplished, gets better reached, one less addict dies. I'm not any boundaries in this. I'm not, and one of the beautiful things about zones is through their very nature, they're not tied to boundaries either, other than what we think they must be. Zones aren't really constrained to anything. We can imagine them to be whatever is most effective in serving our message and our vision. Just need a little open-mindedness and then a willingness to dive through the challenges. You know what? If it came down to the eastern state zone wasn't the most effective way, then so be it, it's not the most effective way. I believe otherwise, I can be wrong. I'm okay with being wrong. But I happen to believe otherwise, and I get excited about possibilities to make us more effective. So I think I'll pass it back to Craig to tie this up, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. And, I know, and I appreciate you talking about culture and the differences. This is in no way trying to dismiss the differences that we have, but what it is what we believe is an opportunity to focus on what we have in common. Yeah, we do some collaboration right now, but it's more ad hoc. It's more individual basis. It's more if Trish goes to the Southeast Zone or PR task force, that's an invitation, by the way, to get involved with the Southeast Zone of Public PR task force. That's her making an individual decision to do that as a member. But what we're talking about is adding this to be a more intentional, formal kind of way that our members have the awareness of it, accessibility of it, and working more together. I don't think anyone in here is more familiar with I-95 than me. Those that know where I've been. And yeah, a couple of people raised their hand back there. And here's the thing about I-95. It crosses multiple states, multiple cultures. It goes from Miami, whatever Miami is, rural, urban, whatever it is. And it goes through North Carolina, south of the border. It goes through all of that, through Maryland, Pennsylvania, all the way up. It's the same highway. It's the same highway. And what we're saying is we can be on the same highway, going in the same direction and recognizing our differences, but focusing on the commonalities. Here's where I share with people. H&I is H&I. I don't care where you do it at. The principles are the same. The resources might be a little different. I mean, the resources are different in the area that I live in versus the area next to me. But it doesn't take away from what we do, why we do it, and what we focus on. Whether it's in Mississippi, I'm gonna stop calling Mississippi. Whether you do it in North Carolina or whether you do it in Florida, we're on the same team. And so what we're envisioning and wanting to foster a conversation about is how we can do it better together and how we are stronger together. And so what this slide, and I'm gonna pass it back to the facilitator, Sherry, but what this slide represents is that there are multiple paths to get to the same place. As I said at the very beginning, that we don't come in with some kind of predetermined outcome that we know this is a slam dunk. It's such a good idea that people are going to jump on board with it. We already got this shit figured out. You just come do it. What we are bringing is a discussion to talk about it. We don't want to do things for you or to you. We want to do things with you. And that's what service is about, in my perspective, working together. And we serve our areas, our groups, but we also need to pay more attention to taking that input in their requirements, because that's all service is about. The only reason the service structure exists is to get people to my home group, to your home group, to your home group, to your home group. That's the only reason we do what we do. And so we're bringing an idea that might enhance that, and might, by us working together, we can do more. And the other thing is that, before I forget about it, is no one person knows as much as all of us do together. And so what we're saying is, let's take advantage of the resources that we have in Maine and Maryland and Pennsylvania, in Florida, with when I was sitting here watching Ezra and Michelle and today Colin talk about the IT team down here in Florida, I also was thinking about those IT guys that I know in the Northeast zone, and also those untapped resources that we have, and them working together, man. I'm just envisioning that. Think about this: a symposium. We're talking about large urban centers together. We're talking Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Baltimore. You threw that in. Baltimore. We're talking Miami. We're talking Atlanta. We're talking Charlotte. We're talking all of those members and leveraging those resources. A symposium in the northern part of the country, a symposium in the southern part of the zone, a northern symposium, a southern symposium, in all within our zone, in the middle of our zone, engaging the seat of government in Washington, D.C., where we have a lot of substance abuse health providers, SAMHSA, all of those places situated right in Washington, D.C. We're missing opportunities. And we believe if we bring ourselves together and leverage those resources, we can start taking advantage of some of those opportunities that I think we miss. And by bringing the best of our thinking together, man, there's a lot I think that we can accomplish together. And this is in no way meant to, as you guys just talked about, the zones are not there to replicate or eliminate or duplicate anything that's done area or region. It's there to complement what the other levels of our service. It's also there to complement world service. This is not a replacement for world service. This is complementing world service and putting those resources together where I believe we can do a better job of creating that knowledge base locally, where we can take advantage of Ruben's experience, Lucy's experience, other people's experience, Doug's experience, and bringing it together in one zone. So there are many paths to get there. There's, if you're trying to get to number 12, if 12 is the destination, there's more than one way to get there. It's more than 11 plus 1. It's more than 10 plus 2. It's also 6 plus 6. So you get the idea, is that perspective that I think is safe to say a lot of us, many of us, maybe all of us, our perspectives on things in recovery or recovery has changed our perspectives about stuff. It's more than this just black and white kind of world. There are little nuances to that. And everyone's experience and perspective is valued and can have an effect on what we're trying to do. So we want to talk about some of we're going to be taking notes because we want to take input and just have this dialogue and discussion with all of you online as well as in the room on what this idea is about. So I'm going to pass it on to our facilitator here. It's just this is where we are. How do we get there? What's the path, right? So, yeah.
Hi, everybody. Any questions I just want to share a little bit about my experience. I'm on our delegate team in Central Atlantic, and a couple of years ago, we realized from our GSR assembly, we also have a 2-day October, that we didn't know much about fellowship development. It was this thing, but what did it do? How did it correlate and get in with PR, H9, or what did it do? And realized I started setting in on the Northeast Zonal Forum, and actually I first started setting in on the Southeastern Public Relations, and so I've kind of set in, and then with the Northeastern I started learning that they had a fellowship development. Wow. So, and then I heard, oh, they have this service request thing, and it was like, okay, let's see if this thing works. That's some depth stuff. but I put in a request and, you know, immediately we were responded to, and it was like, okay, yeah, we'll come to your GSR assembly and give a, you know, hour and a half presentation. And it was like, yay, they did that. Experienced members, it was, you know, collaborating, working together, but, working with the skill set of other members outside of our region that didn't have that, that didn't know that, coming in to help us start understanding another service delivery method that we have. And then there was another instance in which I put it in, and it was about strategic planning. Because our region has started strategic planning, and this is in the autonomy zone. And so we didn't have a lot, you know, as you heard earlier today, you know, infancy as far as, you know, getting any service delivery efforts going. And so asked about strategic planning. Well, there was actually a little video made, and we got to play it before our strategic planning. We in the region wanted to keep the strategic planning going, and it easily kind of just fade out. And so we got a video that actually did a correlation between the in the steps of the strategic planning into their step working, their steps. And it was animated, and you know, it just added to the strategic plan as far as understanding it a little better, as far as how it worked in. But the thing is that, you know, I also felt I want to learn more about it. So I started sitting in and participating on the online planning. And we're still meeting once a month. We were meeting twice a month, and working on modulars to start videos on how to do strategic planning. And it's just really cool to be a part of that, and be welcomed and all. And also in the, you know, we did a VRPR, Southeastern Zone, last year before last. And, you know, we all collaborated together, and I know I was helping with other members of Southeastern Zone as far as getting for the professionals day, getting some emails out. Yeah, I have about 300 of them. And so, but we all worked together. Now, the other week, it was like, okay, we need to plan this, but Southeastern's doing this, Northeast's got this, AZF's got this, and then we've got that. And it's like, oh my gosh, how can we, you know, work a little bit more together and have, you know, one for everyone, you know, maybe even one, but that we all work together to do these tasks. So that's been my experience, and not only did our region reap benefits from the knowledge base that's in all these three zones, but my personal recovery, I'm still learning, you know. The next thing is I'm going to be shadowing George on building a website. I maintain a website. I don't know how to build it. Never knew how to do it. I knew to get a domain name, you know, hosting site, but then where do you go from there? And he's going to help me learn. And I'm excited about it. So with that, what questions do you have about, you know, this possible looking at going together?
I have a couple of questions leading up to something. Northeastern Zone Forum, Dennis, how well established is your H&I committee, task force, whatever that you guys created?
We don't have an H&I. That's one thing that Southeast is the only one that has.
Autonomy?
Mhm.
Okay, so how would you feel about starting with that? Let's get our heads together and create one H&I up and down the East Coast, and let's see how well we play together. Let's see how we can do that and build from that.
That an official service request?
I'm throwing an idea out for discussion, that's all I'm doing.
That's a great fucking idea.
Right,
Mhm.
I'm just throwing out an idea for discussion,
That is.
just a discussion. Thoughts?
Do you have some
George.
ideas, guys?
Oh,
Or
that- I was enjoying the idea. It sounds like a great starting point to see to one, let us dip our toes in and not feel like it's this radical jumping in ice cold water change. But yeah,
Got it, Matt. Thank you.
George, then Ramon.
So my name is George, I'm an addict.
Hey, George.
This is really more a statement or an observation than really a question. So, you know, I've been hanging out with these guys for about, 15, 18 months or whatever. They allow me to bounce in and out of meetings when I can. I got a lot of shit going on here in Georgia, along with just other stuff that I do. So I'm not the most consistent participant. I'm real bad about forgetting it's Tuesday night, it's 8 o'clock, and I'm supposed to be on a meeting because it's the third Tuesday or whatever. But anyway, they've always invited me in. They welcome my input. I was always allowed to not only give input, but even vote on the decision making. And, taking it on down the road, I was talking with someone that's a member of the regional PR committee here in Georgia that I also do convention work with. And they're like, look, man, we got all this shit going on down here. We don't have anybody to fucking help us. What the fuck are you doing up there? And excuse my French. But, and I'm like, do you know why I participate up there? And he's like, why? And I'm like, just calm down and hear me. I participate there because my experience in service work at my region, I am not getting fed as a service representative. I feel like a lot of my efforts, I'm just out there in the middle of the sand going in circles. And so that's why I follow these guys. Dennis invited me to go to San Antonio. I went out there, I met Doug. Doug's down here to do a convention workshop with me. I sat in on theirs in Detroit online, and it's like me and this dude, we jihad. And, I wouldn't be there if it wasn't for us being open-minded in service effort. Because at the end of the day, this is about the message, it's about getting the addict in my home group, your home group. And, maybe, just maybe, my kid, my grandkid, the Christmas before last, my oldest child got busted for selling weed, like 4 sale charges. Now, his sister is in law school at the University of Georgia, and I ain't got a good relationship with one of them. So if I follow y'all and y'all teach me how to play here, maybe, just maybe, I affect other areas of my life.
Thank you, George.
Thanks,
That was good.
And Ramon,
Hands are up.
Hi family, my name is Angie Manado,
And
and I perked up away from thinking about food. When Matt brought up H9, because as many of you know, because I've been talking about it all weekend long, like my area is one of the lead with H9. And having that collaboration, like our area, our rural area down in Texas, might be the great test market to do this. That's collaboration.
I just actually thought a challenge to the H&I, while we have 3 zones, because this is a kind of an open discussion, not just a Q&A, this is just us talking stuff through, is then you have 3 zones that either have to elect a trusted servant to attend. You have different levels of, if they want to embark on a new project, you got to wait for 3 different zones to approve it. But it's, again, as each zone going to elect their own H&I chair to attend this thing, and then those H&I chairs are going to turn around and select amongst themselves who's facilitator. I know it's a minor challenge, but it's, again, I can see us getting into the weeds very quickly with something like that. I like the idea in principle personally, but just presenting a challenge for that approach. It's the same thing as Craig was, what's up there is many roads to get to the goal of working together and sharing resources. So whatever gets us there is great. But if it's the effective way of getting us there, whatever. But it was just something that popped in my head as far as a challenge. I'm like, how am I going to facilitate this in the Northeast zone? We're going to have to hold an election for a chair, but then that chair is not the chair. The chair is going to be the liaison. Okay, who's chair? Who's this accountable to? How am I going to answer those questions? So I'm thinking back as facilitator of NECF on that.
I could actually speak to that if we're having a conversation. The way that the Southeastern Zone Forum task forces were set up originally was with the intent of, we have a facilitator and we have a liaison. So the facilitator's job is really only to facilitate the actual meeting. The point of contact being the liaison. Now, the facilitator is elected at the task force itself. Liaison is elected at the task force, but is ratified by the zone. So you actually pretty well described exactly how that would work. There would be a liaison from each zone, essentially the same way that the video project is set up right now.
Yep.
Each zone that is officially participating has a liaison that's elected at their zone. Southeastern Zone Forum Task Force and Northeastern. And then we have a facilitator, which is you at this point. Neither one of our zones actually said, we want Dennis to facilitate. We decided that within the little task group itself. So I think the challenge to that has actually already been laid down. We already have a method in place for all of that to work.
Okay, awesome. Good
What's up,
examples.
Sherry?
Okay, Jeff?
Ramon.
Ramon?
Hey, Ramon.
So like, I knew we were gonna have this conversation.
Can you
and,
notes for?
And I think it's a very good conversation to have. But it's also very challenging to have the AUs and RDs on here from all zones. Because this, I believe, is a decision that's gonna take some talking, some going back and forth, some work. I mean, really, I've been here a little while, what I've learned is not happening overnight. It takes us quite a while to make a decision. It's a great idea. I had some conversation at my last region with some members about this, and there's concerns and there were smiles. So it was kind of sitting on both sides of the fence. I think really when we look at this, it's gonna be a long, lengthy discussion, and then we're gonna have to figure out how's it gonna work. When we start talking about facilitating and travel and moving, a lot of things to work out, or we just gonna join together, and you're still gonna do your thing, and we're gonna do our thing, and we're gonna do our thing. All we're really gonna unify is one. You know, and the only way that I'm gonna work is to really unify. Forward. One facilitator, one PR person, one H&I person, and find a common ground that we all work together. Not, you know, this is my friend, and this is my friend, and this is my friend. We'll find a way to mixture the entire zone so that all the regions feel a part of. So that no one area feels like, well, and I'm gonna use it as my example currently right now, I'm from the Bay Area. In the Florida region, there are 12 admin members in the entire admin body, and 10 of them are from the Bay Area. So that we never find ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds great.
Go ahead.
12 member admin,
Yeah.
and 10 of them are from the Bay Area.
What the
Yes, so like I'm saying is, you know, to we put something together, we're a service area, that's it. But it's a fact, and then I hear other areas say, man, that feels like one-sided. I don't know. I just think that, I mean, I like the idea, personally, I like the idea. It's not about the personalities for me. Because I can get my experience from anyone I see, from anyone I want to see.
So that is one-sided.
Because if I really want to learn how to build a website, I know that there's 500 members in Narcotics Anonymous. And you teach me how to, I really want to build a website. Today, all I got to do is go to YouTube. It's almost that simple, and I'm being facetious. I'm a plumber. The other day, they threw a toilet at me that I ain't never seen in my life. And I went to YouTube and I was able to repair this toilet. I don't know, man. I like it. I just think it's gonna be a long conversation.
Well, and that's what we're bringing it out, right? And my first thought though, Ramon, before I forget about it, I can't imagine a toilet you've never seen before. I'm trying to vision what that looks like, Madame. So, I mean, but anyway, let me.
It came out of Germany.
Okay, I'm not going to divert us, but the thing about it though is that part of the purpose of this workshop is to paint the picture and put a vision out there. We're not saying how we get there. I mean, we're not even saying if we get there. We're just presenting a vision and painting a picture of how to do that, because that's what leadership is about. We had that conversation today. Leadership is about being able to communicate as to here's where we are and here's what we do and here is where we could go and how do we get there. That's what leadership is about, is painting the picture, and the possibility is there might be a pathway to somewhere else. As far as, I don't think anyone in here is under any kind of illusion that this is not something that we're just, hey, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do it next month and blah, blah, blah. This is this is just a starting point, possibly. Even that's a possibility, right? And then in the end, I think we can all agree, if any kind of decision is made to like move forward with this, that includes our areas, our regions, our groups. And I might be wrong on that, but I'm thinking, you know, just off the top of my head, that includes a lot of people that are not in this room. And you know, painting that picture and seeing if we can get there. But form follows function. And what that means is before we even get to the details of when, how, who, all of that kind of thing, we have to kind of paint the picture first. What's the purpose? All of those kind of things. That's the functional part of it. And then the form will follow that.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Jeff and Matt.
Hey, Jeff.
Now I'm standing because I'm late. Okay, yeah, I understand about taking time. I certainly do. I've been waiting 43 years. Okay, my first thing in service was at the WC Policy Committee, and we were discussing the same similar things. We're on zone jam. Okay, I've been waiting 40 years. And you know what? The moving slowly plan doesn't work. Okay, it'll never work. All right, and I'm personally tired of it. All right, I'm more for let's get shit rolling. Okay, my suggestion is we have 3 zones represented here. Each of us go back to our zones tomorrow or the next time we meet and say, we're gonna select 2, 3, 4, 5 each, over a number of people from each of the zones to get together to bring back to our zones what this might look like and all the options that we have for the functions of it and the forms of it. Okay, and then bring it back and get it going. Okay, bring it back for a vote. We can talk about this for another 40 years. All right, and we will if no one gets off their ass and does that. I'm a good off my ass and do something sort of guy. And that's what got me into trouble over the years too. Okay, but it's also gotten shit done too. All right, and I'm for stop the talking and let's start doing something. I don't care what it is. I am for this idea, but only as a stepping stone. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Okay, I think this should be a stepping stone to a United States service entity. That is still the only situation that makes sense for this country and to serve the acts in this country who are not getting served ever since we created a world board. It's not the world board's fault. It's our fault of creating the system and leaving the United States out. Okay, because the United States was so much for so long, and we became rightly concerned about how we were short-shifting the rest of the world, that we started serving the rest of the world and short-shifting the United States, only because there is no entity responsible for it. We're here in the Southeast responsible for the Southeast. The Northeast responsible for the Northeast. NAWS is not responsible for it. They've been doing it for us. Okay, and they shouldn't have to. It's not their job, it's ours. So either you care about what's going on in this country and want to help carry the message, or let's keep doing the same shit we're doing, and we're gonna get the same results we got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Online, Adam?
Somebody
Oh, you
taking,
gotta- you gotta
are you
ask
driving
unmute.
this?
Yes. Ask to unmute. I
me-
think George got
Thank
him.
you.
You got
Hello,
it?
everybody. My name's Adam Maddox.
Hey,
And,
Adam.
I got a couple. First of all, I miss you guys. Sorry I can't be there this weekend, but I was traveling last weekend and couldn't do it 2 weeks in a row. Anyway, two things before I make a comment about the Eastern Zone. You can't see my video. I can't start my video. So you got the security controls really locked down for something that's supposed to be about more collaboration. But that's a on that same note, like it's really difficult for those of us out, well, at least for me online, to hear a lot of the comments from around the room because the single microphone is up on that table where Craig and Dennis are. So I don't know if people can speak a little louder or come up to the front maybe to share. The second thing is that is a live mic. So Craig and Dennis, if you guys make a comment while someone's speaking, we really can't hear what what somebody's sharing in the room. We can only hear the two of you. So that's just that. As far as the Eastern Zone goes, there you go, Dennis. As far as my comments on an Eastern Zone go, I'm really conflicted. I got a lot of different thoughts about it, and I'm going to try to put them into words here without taking a half an hour. So I heard some discussions about resources, people resources. And, right now we're looking to get, 3 people to do this in 3 zones and 3 people to do that in 3 zones. And we could just have, 1 person in 1 mega zone or whatever the case may be. And, I think that's both a plus, but also a detriment. One of the greatest things in our fellowship is the ability for people to be of service, right? And if we reduce positions, that's less of an opportunity to be of service in certain things. I understand that, yes, there's also, there's just being of service and doing committee work or work group or project task force or whatever you want to call it. You don't have to be an elected, trusted servant to gain experience. But that's just one of the things I thought of, and yeah, because we have been having difficulty filling trusted servant positions, at least locally here. And obviously, the way things expanded throughout the 90s and early 2000s makes it more difficult. But anyway, that was one thing. My other thing was, I was trying to think of how, all right. One of my beliefs is that one of the core responsibilities of an area or a region or a zonal forum is to be a sharing support forum for its member service bodies. It bugs the heck out of me when an area wants to get done so quickly that they don't want to actually listen to what's going on in the groups, right? So I really feel like a zonal forum should really have a good session / forum to really hear what's going on in the regions that it supports, or that the regions support this, whatever. And personally, I think we've been getting away from that to some extent and focusing more on, what direct services can we do with holding workshops or presentations and with all the PR and the FD and all that type of stuff. I think we've gotten away from the open forum and hearing what's going on in our area regions. So that kind of worries me a little bit. If we had that many more regions, we would be, scrambling more for time to really hear what's going on in our regions. And stuff like that. One of the greatest benefits my region has ever gotten from our zonal forum was back when we were just topic discussion, right? And regions and members from the regions. It wasn't even RDs back then, right? Just various members would show up and you discuss a given topic and discuss it for a few hours, just one topic or for a couple of hours. And we learned so much from each other back then, and I feel like we're missing that a little bit. But I know there's different ways to share information and stuff like that. And, you know, and maybe we've just gotten to a point, at least I've gotten to a point where there's so much information in so many places, it's so difficult to digest it all. You know, that's sometimes I long for the days when that's it. You went here to get the information, that was it. So I don't know. That's just some of my thoughts. I'll shut up now. Thank you guys for being there and being of service this weekend. Love y'all.
Thanks, Adam. And we have Robert. Yeah, and I just wanted to remind people, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 persons in the queue, and we have about 20 minutes.
I won't take all of that. I'm Robert Manat. First, I want to say thanks to everybody that's here. I think this is really cool because I don't think that this is what was planned a few months ago for this weekend. Saying that being said, that, you know, most times when we have this Southeastern Zonal at this time, it's about the car cat. And it's pretty much consumed in that time span. We don't have time to sit around and share ideas that have been talked about in hallways since I got clean, personally. And I don't like to think small, I like to think big, and I'm just gonna come out and say it. A US zonal conference is the only way to pursue this, because what we're talking about are states in the United States working together to provide services for the United States in TV, in radio, in federal prisons. I mean, all these things it's going to take, you can't separate the federal pens from the East Coast and the West Coast. You've got to deal with the federal penitentiary system as an entity. So, and even with radio and national television, there's a lot of stuff that we could be doing and pooling our resources to complete. And, you know, having this forum, and, you know, tomorrow we have the Southeastern Zonal Forum, but, you know, we talk about fellowship development. This is fellowship development. This is what we should be doing in fellowship development. We should be creating this conference. And I don't think there are any zones in the United States that would object or disagree with what we're saying. I think we're all on the same path. But the problem is, and what I've seen over the years is, I'm going to do it my way, and you're going to do it your way, you're going to do it your way, and never the three shall ever meet. Not only that, when we do that, we divide our services. We divide the pool of people that are willing to actually do the work. And what is it, 6 zones on the board? Could you imagine all the trusted servants from those 6 zones that are going on now working as one? That's a lot of 8.
In the US.
That's a lot of trusted servants. That's a big pool. That's a big HRP pool to pull people from for task committees, for H&I, for PR. So I think that 3 is way too small. 3 is way too small. The United States, it's time. It's really time for the United States to step up and become its own conference. And, you know, Canada, bless them for being here today. They've done it nationally. The blueprint is there. The blueprint is right in front of our face. All we have to do is follow it. We don't have to create how we do it. We just need to look what somebody else didn't do it. So that's all I got.
Okay, I'd just like to remind everyone that at 5:30, that we are going to have a workshop here on the US collaboration of zones. So next, Ruben. And then Shane.
And Ruby. I'm the AD for the Bay House Blue Bonnet region. And part of the Southern Zone. I just came to listen to what you guys are doing on this part of the country. And along with what Jeff was saying earlier, we called it, when I got here, we called it Resolution A. And then we said, don't call that no more like that. So my point to that is that I think we're like, let's stop talking about it. Today, so many of us are here representing, why don't we take some kind of something, what you guys developed, because we're gonna look to you guys. I'm sure that the Southern Zonal Forum will look to you guys and go, okay, they did this weekend, they did this thing. How are we going to do that in our zone? So I'd like to see us, that you would give us something before we leave here. What is that gonna be? And because we will look to you guys for that. That's all.
Thanks, Ruben.
Would you all like to respond to that?
I'd like to do it at the end. Let's do it at the end.
For how to make this, move this forward.
How to move it forward?
Do it where we go,
Okay.
do it at the very end.
Yeah,
Well-
at the very end.
Okay, then we have Shane online.
How you got him in queue, man?
He raised his hand and I lowered
Well, I know, but his hand's down.
it. I lowered it when I got him and let her know.
Oh,
So if you could unmute him.
And then Nancy after Shane.
if he'll put himself on the screen, I will see.
I can't. I don't want to turn the fucking video on. I appreciate kind of both sides of the coin in this conversation here. And just something that I want to point out is that, many of us have been to this is not about the US zone. So I don't know why y'all keep bringing up US zones in this discussion. Like it's distracting from the discussion of the Eastern zones. And, the US zone is going to be a longer thing. We all know that. Most of us have been in those planning meetings. But the point I would like to make is that, if your three zones decide you wanted to become one, how much money would that save the fellowship in travel, meeting costs, and all of a sudden the budget you would have for the services that everybody wants to provide nationwide, like the phone line, the website, national PSA on TV, or even on the Northeast. All of those services can be done regionally through the cable companies and all that stuff. Canada's shown us that they were able to do it that way in North America. So I just wanted to raise the point about how much money would this save the fellowship in sending the delegates, the different executive committee members from the three zones, the cost of the actual meeting. The Southern Zone meeting, I think, usually only costs us like $1,000 or something. I mean, I think Southeast, if I'm correct, is a significant amount more than that. And I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. I'm saying that's more money that could be used for actual services to help people get clean. So I just wanted to raise that point, is that's a huge positive I see if anybody decides to join, is immediately there's an opportunity for more money to actually do some work. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. And Nancy, New Jersey?
I'm an addict named Nancy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
we can.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, guys. Thank you for being. So this is an open forum, right? Discussion, and it's a topic I've been seeing come up a lot. As a RD for a member region in the Northeast, I can say that this has not been formally discussed in the Northeast Zonal Forum. Other than in passing, it is on our list of discussion topics to address. So we'll see where the member regions of the Northeast really feel with that. So I've been thinking about two things that tend to separate out the vantage point on this discussion. And one is aspects that could benefit trusted servants, which may not always coincide with how an RCM might see a benefit to their area, right? And that's something that we in New Jersey try to be super cognizant of. And so it has me reflecting on a structure that we have in New Jersey that we've had for since before I got clean, and I'm clean 31 years, is shared services structure where we do all of our services statewide, which is composed of 2 separate regions, and there's a few areas that are members of a region in Pennsylvania. But everything we do is geopolitical boundary based. And each region has a liaison to the shared services. And so they bring, whether it's their conscience or needs, to this body that addresses it on a statewide level. And we maintain contacts with those in like the Camden area, which is part of Greater Philly. And but we maintain those relationships. And as far as facilitation of these meetings, it alternates. You know, New Jersey does it one month, Northern New Jersey does it the next time. And if someone doesn't show up, then someone picks it up. Facilitation of these is not an issue. There's always someone there to facilitate. But it has embedded itself as a belief within the entire state, for the most part, of how services are provided. So when the SSP came up and they were talking about statewide representation, our initial discussions were based in well, you know, we might have to merge, right? But because so many of our services were already shared on a large, anything public facing is shared. That prospect was a lot easier to digest, because how it would feel on the ground would not be that severe. Now that topic from the SSP fell off the table, so did our discussions about merging. But I believe in that incremental change creates organic support and buy-in. And so as part, you know, these presentations are on a roadshow, and I'm not sure where they're formally generating from, but just to participate in the discussion, I think that a buy-in from the regions, which is necessary, could be best done incrementally by collaboration of certain specific services. The gentleman mentioned H&I task force, great idea. Things like that, we can start collaborating on a wider scale, which our PR subcommittee pretty much does, but we could really make it a formal agenda. And then the fellowship membership can actually see this as a natural organic evolution. Jeff's passion for lack of waiting notwithstanding, okay? But, you know, and even with our PR subcommittee, we did it as an ad hoc for 2 years. It took 2 years for it to go from an ad hoc to a formal standing subcommittee. But by the time we were ready to say, hey, this is going to be a formal thing, the evidence was there. The buy-in was there. The regions were in support of it because they could see the benefit. And that's how I would like to propose this idea evolve. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Nancy. And the last person we have in the queue at this time is, do you want to respond to that? And then Ramon.
Thank you, Nancy, for sharing, and for everyone on that. And Jeff kind of proposed something to the effect of
Jeff, can you
zones,
shut
send a few people to an Eastern States thing to figure out how to move forward with something. What that would be, each zone would have to come with some conscience and some decisions and some ideas to make a thing happen. So like we're about to go into, Jeff is going to talk for a moment, we're all going to talk for a moment real quick about moving forward. What would it take? Like me as facilitator of Northeast Zonal Forum, I cannot propose this thing. I don't have that. The Northeast Zonal Forum in its current capacity would not be happy with me as the chairperson proposing something of that nature. However, if another zone says, we are asking you officially for something, I can put it on the agenda. If one of our regions says, this idea, we want to see this move forward, like Nancy. If the idea of having an Eastern States shared services or Eastern States Task Committee force work group, whatever we want to call it, if that comes from one of our members, it goes on the agenda and we'll officially decide to send people or not. So that's like our part of moving forward officially. And all my role in that would be facilitating that discussion and decision. And this is, again, in the Northeast, it's on our agenda for April. It was in our open forum in October. It went to go into our business, but then we had some strong enthusiasm in our open forum, but then we went into the business, and in business, it feels like a decision and a now thing. And it's like, whoa, not ready. The conversation isn't there yet. So we kicked it down the road. So that's my piece for moving forward. It's all getting to the same thing of just serving our message.
Ramon?
My name is Ramon.
Hey, Ramon.
So I think Jeff hit the nail on the head, and it seems like it's something that we've been talking about for some time. So maybe it's just time for maybe the 3 zones to decide, is let's send 3 RDs from every zone to start meeting virtually and start bringing up ideas and putting something into play and allow them to seek their own facilitator to do the job. And let's see where we go from there. And as we're moving forward, we can still, and then we'll have 2 or 3 RDs or ADs or have the delegates, right? And we'll have a, say, 9-person delegate team saying, this is the plan we got. These are the ideas we have. They can bring it back to the zones, share that information with the other delegates, and then we got something concrete to take back to our regions and our groups and see in what direction they want to go. Because we all know that the ultimate authority is them, and it's up to them in what direction we're going to go. But to go and just say, hey, we got this great idea, it's going to come with 50,000 questions that we're unable to answer.
Okay, thank you very
It's
much.
just an idea, and I'm not volunteering. No, I did not. I'll do that.
I know I've been involved in a lot of this, and my first thought is that it affects so many persons along the eastern US that to make it exclusive to delegates, I think that, you know, I'd like multiple people to get into it so that people from each region have an opportunity, not just the delegates, to at least listen in on it, if not participate. But that's just my thoughts on it. Now, we have 1 minute, about 1 minute, and then Jeff.
So I know the Southern Zonal Forum has a delegate. The Southeast Zonal Forum has a delegate. I don't know about North. They don't?
No.
Okay,
The only US zone to have a delegate is the southern zone.
Southern Zone.
They don't either anymore. You don't have 2 unseated regions in bluegrass. It's no longer in the picture, right?
The Kentucky region shared a seat anyway, so they were already included.
Yeah,
Well, no, the Southern Zonal Forum has elected a zonal delegate.
They've all have a zonal delegate, but they're not the ones that'll be on the floor. That's
Originally, they had a
representative.
seat on the floor because
Right,
of
right.
the bluegrass thing.
Okay,
But they do have
Either way, go ahead.
the zonal have delegates. I know we just elected one. Why don't we charge them with talking about this to bring back to the regions that they serve in the zones?
These are all great ideas. So it's
that way
something
it
to
gets
gather
them
together.
involved and engaged and sort of talk to each other. And then circle down to their zones from there.
Okay, that's what we're doing. And last is, because we have to close, we have 3 minutes. Jeff?
All right, my name's Jeff, and I'm an ag. I'm
Hey,
gonna
Jeff.
suggest a way forward on this based on the discussion that we've had here so far. The ideas we've had is one for the H and I, okay, and then one for the gathering amongst each of the zones. So I'm gonna suggest to do both, okay? So I'm gonna be bringing up at our zonal forum tomorrow, and I am gonna ask the autonomy zone and northeastern zone to bring up something similar or the same, and that is to create a work group consisting of 3 participants from each of the zones, each of the 3 zones, to be facilitated, rotating facilitation between the 3 facilitators of the zone, just like we're doing the US collaboration. We rotate those meetings and each of the facilitators host them. And for the purpose of coming back to the zones with a plan for 1, the creation of a single H&I task force amongst the 3 zones to come back with what the function of that would be and what the form of that would be, and give options for both of those, as well as an eastern states zone, what that would look like, a single eastern states zone. As far as options, number 1, the function of that, and then the multiple options for what form that could take. And to bring those back to the 3 zones once there is a consensus on those options.
So could I add something to that, Jeff?
Sure.
And I don't think it's premature because I think most of us have been involved with planning. As part of their task is to bring back a timeline.
Yeah.
Some ideas of a timeline, target dates,
Add that.
milestones, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Be consistently, not by month.
Yeah, whatever Ramon said. I didn't catch all of that.
He's gonna be on it anyway, so it's okay.
But anyway, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's what we're gonna be
Give
bringing up
people,
tomorrow.
let's give people hard information, right? To look at, not something fuzzy or murky, but just kind of, hey, timelines, this is, those kind of things and how this could work and blah, 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 and bring that back. So people can make an informed decision about some things.
Okay, I think we've had
Any
a-
other suggestions like that?
Yep.
We've had a wonderful discussion here. Everybody remember this, and we have some notes that have been taken, ideas and all. It is time to close, so can we, you are.
I know on the NEZF side, I'll look for an official proposal from a zone and hopefully a proposal from one of our regions for whether or not the NEZF officially jumps in.
Write a project plan for you.
No, I need something official from
Okay.
a zone.
Can we have a moment of silence?
Yeah.
Followed by the we version serenity prayer. Serenity prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference just for today.
Now, is that